All right, so today we're going to talk about sin. So you say, what does the preacher preach about? He preaches about sin. What did he preach about? He's against it, But the problem is we all still in this body, in this flesh, we still struggle with sin. One day we will lay this tent aside and our struggle with sin will be over. But the victory's already won for us, but we're still engaged in this skirmish, in this battle. And we've looked at several different shadows of the soul. We talked about anger one week, and some of us are quick to anger, and we're working on that. We talked about pride and putting ourselves first. We talked about the sin of deceit or lying, and envy, wanting what other people have and feeling like you didn't get a fair shot at life. The sin of greed, and last week we spent some time on fear. And today, on Donut Sunday, I'm going to talk to you about gluttony. So be careful if you're sitting next to somebody who is a glutton. This is not a good time to elbow them and he's talking about you. We need to go back on that diet again. When we think about gluttony, first thing we do is, it's weird. We talk about sin. Usually we don't laugh about it. But this is one of those sins that, it's just become acceptable, especially in the church and the South. And preachers are the worst, You'll have a preacher get up and they'll say they never touch a drop of alcohol. They'll never put a cigarette in their lips. And then they got, 150 pounds to lose and they're laughing about going to the buffet after church. I'm so glad that buffets are kind of fading out and you don't see them as much as you used to. You never win in a buffet. You just never do. You go in there and you're going to get used to be, $10 worth. Now it's probably $20. There's a couple of guys here in church that we love to go every once in a while to the Indian buffet. And, it's an acquired taste. You gotta try it. Everything looks disgusting. And some of it is so hot, you understand why they sing the way they do. You get it. Some of it is too spicy, it's too much, but Indian food, I love it so much, it's so good, and you're going to pay for it, and I never win. I eat, and I overeat, and I go back and get some more, and by the end of it, that feeling, that terrible feeling. I remember when Grace, our oldest daughter, was a teenager, and she's skinny, and I said, Grace, how do you stay so skinny? Tell me about how you think about food. And she said, Dad, I hate the feeling of hunger, and I hate the feeling of being too full. I was like, oh, that's the difference right there. Yeah, I like that feeling. I like that feeling of being full. And, when you think of gluttony, you probably think, first thing, like overeating. And all of us know what that's like. We've all done it. And eating more than we need. And eating constantly and snacking. And yeah, gluttony is a part of that, and I stood on the scale the other day, and it's about 30 pounds heavier than it's supposed to be. I've gained like 10 pounds in the last... You guys are too good to us, and my wife is too good of a cook, and it's so easy to put on weight. It's so hard to take it off. Isn't it weird? It's backwards with money. It's so easy to spend all your money, it's hard to save it, and yet with fat, we save that, and it's so hard to get rid of it. And like most Americans, we tend to get these things backwards. We're broke and we're overweight. How? I don't know, but we did it. And so we got to talk about gluttony, but realize it's so much more than food. It's so much more than just eating too much. That could be one way gluttony shows up in your life, but it can show up in a lot more ways than that. Just think of gluttony as this insatiable desire for more. And again, that can relate to food, but it can relate to a lot of other things as well. It can relate to your career or your education, this continual pursuit of knowledge and gaining more information, or just pushing yourself relentlessly to accomplish so many goals in life. It's great to have ambition, but realize there's all kinds of corpses at the top of Mount Everest that started with ambition. Ambition's a great thing, but you can take it too far to the point where it's creating imbalance in your life and disrupting your relationships. And but gluttony, it can be just stuff. I like stuff. I like new stuff. I like interesting stuff. And so, yeah, gluttony could drive you to the buffet, but it can also just drive you to the mall. And when is enough enough? I mean, how many perfumes do you need? How many shirts? How many new pairs of shoes? How many It's getting personal, isn't it? You're like, yeah, he's talking about you. He's talking about, yeah. But it can be your hobbies or your interests, and you buy one bike and you're like, this is a really great bike. I didn't realize how much I like bikes. What other bikes are out there? Oh, there's this kind of bike. There's a mountain bike and there's a street bike and there's, I want to know all I can about this hobby, and I want to purchase more and more. And then you walk in your closet. Like I walked in my closet today and I'm like, I just cleaned this out, a couple of years ago, and now I've got too many clothes. I find a shirt I like and I'm like, oh, I need that in orange, I need that in red, I need that in black, I need that in gray. And before you know it, you've got too much stuff. And I mean, drive around Port Orange or Daytona and what will you see? Storage centers, right? Because we have too much stuff, we can't even get it all in our house anymore. And so everywhere you look, they're building storage centers so you can park your stuff until you're able to get a bigger house so you can fill it up with more stuff. We love things. Americans love things. We like to buy things. It feels great. It feels like we have some control. It feels like we have power. And let's face it, in that moment, it makes us feel really happy. Like we feel really excited taking something home or getting something in the mail. I mean, with Amazon now and Prime, they drive past your house like 3 times a day. Just Amazon. And then you also have Federal Express and UPS. It could be like Christmas every day. You could just constantly order stuff and then put stuff on subscribe and save. And it's like, oh, a new box, a new thing, a new item. And some people are so addicted to their phones, like they never stop shopping. The shopping just always continues. And what's at the heart of all this is this sense of gluttony that whatever I need to be happy exists outside of me. Whatever I need to fulfill me, whatever I need to make me feel content exists outside of me. And that's another way that you and I could define gluttony. It's this sense that there's something outside of me that I need to purchase or I need to acquire, or some experience that lies outside of me that I need to experience, and then I could be happy. Then I would feel content. Then I would feel fulfilled. There's lots of examples of gluttony in the Bible, and they might be where you wouldn't think to find them. Like, for example, I think about Samson is a good example of gluttony. He let his desire for women and that kind of gluttony get him into a lot of trouble. I mean, he ended up with his eyes gouged out and his head shaved. Well, not all of that's bad, but part of it is bad. And he ended up humiliated because it took him down a road. Think of the prodigal son. I want the wealth. I want the money. I want the experiences. I want to leave the confines of this limited environment I'm in, where I'm restricted, where I have to obey the rules. I want to break free from all of these limitations, and I want to go to a distant land, and I want tickets to experience every option available. And so he set out on a distant land, and he had a lot of fun. He was very happy, and he made a lot of other people happy for a while. But his short-term vision for his life dominated his view, and he didn't think about the long-term vision. He didn't think about what would happen when all the money ran out. I think it's a great example of gluttony, how it can take us further than we want to go. And in your quest for freedom, look at Samson and look at the prodigal son, and what do you see? In this quest for freedom, they end up captured. I think about Solomon is a good example of gluttony. I mean, here's a guy who has all kinds of wisdom given to him by God, but look, he never has enough of anything. In fact, he writes a whole book called Ecclesiastes, which is about how pointless it is. He's like, I was overcome with ambition. I built great temples. I built great structures. I built gardens. And I looked at him and I said, wow, that's really amazing. What's next? And then he said, I decided I would just eat, drink, and be merry. I would just live for happiness. I would live for joy. And he says, I did that for a while. I went to all the rock concerts. I smoked all the stuff, and I went with whoever I wanted to. And he said, and I get to the end of all this, and he says, what? Meaningless, or vanity. In other words, it's pointless. He's like, you acquire all this wealth, and then you end up leaving it to kids who aren't grateful. Be careful, don't say amen right now. You acquire all these things. You acquire all these treasures. I mean, people came from all over the world to see Solomon's treasure. And he's like, what's the point of all this? I work so hard. I amass so much wealth. I amass so many things only to get old and die. And then I have to leave it to people who aren't even grateful to begin with. And who knows what they'll do with it? Probably squander it. The guy had 1,000 wives. I can't keep one happy. Like Raymond said, and everybody loves Raymond, why would I want to disappoint more? 1,000. I mean, you don't even know all their names. You can't know all their names even. When is enough enough? How much do you need in order to feel content? You know, one of the other examples I think of in the Bible is the woman at the well. Now, I don't think she was a glutton, but I think there's a principle to be learned in that passage that can help us who struggle with gluttony, with wanting more, wanting other things, wanting new experiences, feeling trapped, feeling sad, chasing happiness. I think there's a principle in that story that can help us. Do you remember when Jesus sat down at the well and the woman came and she was thirsty? She was getting water in the middle of the day. It was hot, and Jesus starts talking to her about living water. And listen to what he says. He says, you know, if you had the living water inside you, you wouldn't have to keep coming back to this water. Now, he doesn't mean that if you have Jesus in your life, you don't ever get thirsty. What he means is there's a thirst that lives within you, like your thirst for water. All of us have this hunger or this thirst for more, for joy, for happiness, for peace in our life. We all have this hunger and this thirst. There's this discontent that lives within us. Now, why is that discontent there? We don't live in the Garden of Eden. We're outside the Garden of Eden now, and there's this discontent with things as they are. And there's this fear that we're going to miss out on all these opportunities and all this experience of joy and happiness. We're going to miss out on these things. So there's this discontent that lives within us. And Jesus says, you know, there's a living water that God can put in you that would fill you to help you with this feeling of emptiness that you have. Or say it this way, there's an emptiness that exists within you that only God can fill. But you keep trying to fill it up with the things of this world. Think of it like Jesus is saying, there's a well of living water. You can come there and you can drink as much as you want and God will fill you. But the devil has 1,000 fountains as well. And he would love for you to choose from any you want as long as you don't choose living water. And this fountains that he has keep you perpetually thirsty. They never satisfy. They only gratify. They gratify your desires, but can never satisfy your true needs. God promised to satisfy you and never promises to gratify you. He does promise to satisfy you. And so if we could start to shift from our quest for happiness to more of a quest for joy. Joy is something that exists within us even when we don't get what we want. See, happiness is completely dependent on, I got what I wanted. I wanted tickets to the game. I'm going to the game. And then when I get to the game, I hope to get a hamburger and a soda. And if I get what I want, then I can be happy. And this is really kind of toddler thinking, right? If I get what I want, I can be happy. One of our daughters, Kaylee, she was telling me yesterday about her daughter, who's a 2-year-old, Catherine, my granddaughter. And Kaylee said to Catherine, we're going to go to Chick-fil-A. Which Catherine runs upstairs to get Dad, grabs his face and says, Dad, I'm going to Chick-fil-A. I am going to get fries and a mint. And then I want to see a crab with its pincher. And he said, I don't think we're going to get to... They live in Montana. It's like, I don't think we're going to get to see a crab with its pincher. And she grabbed his face again and said, listen. I am going to Chick-fil-A. And I'm going to get fries and a mint. And then I want to see a crab with its pincher. And you know, a lot of us kind of go out into life like that. Like, I know what I want. I like what I like. And that's what I need in order to be happy. If I had that, I'd be happy. If I don't get that, then there's a problem. You see, you're holding me back. You're limiting my options. Imagine if you were on a boat. You've been looking forward to going on this weekend boat. Rob, our guitar player, he's got a nice boat. He's like, hey, why don't you take your family with me on the boat? So we go out on the boat, and it's a beautiful day, and it's sunny, and it's great. They got a picnic basket with sandwiches and chips, and everybody's having a good time. And then what happens? Somebody drives by on a jet ski. And you think to yourself, what would really make this say awesome is we should rent jet skis. We've got the boat. If I rented a jet ski, they're right over there at that shop. If we just go over there and rent a jet ski, then I could take one kid at a time out on excursions. We could go up and down these waterways, go around the boat, splash them. Wouldn't that be so much fun? It would be more fun if we could get a jet ski also. And you look at your wife, you say, hey, you know what we should do? We should totally get a jet ski. To which she looks back at you. When will you ever be satisfied? You're on a boat with your family. You don't need to get a jet ski. You know how expensive that is? Why can't you just enjoy right now? I don't know. I don't know why I can't. I'm trying to. And in my quest to try to make it more fun and more exciting, wouldn't it be cool if we could also do this? But no, you don't want me to have fun, so fine. I'll just sit here on the boat and pout and sulk and think how crazy this is. Like, you're literally out on a boat with your family, but there's something within you, this voice within you that says, this could be better. It's really fun, but it'd be more fun if we got the express pass. I'm glad we have annual passes to the park, but for $50 more, we could get the express pass. And there's this insatiable drive for more. And then one day you walk in your closet and you're like, I got too much stuff. I got to get rid of some of this. I feel like I'm choking in it. I wrote a quote down that I wanted to not forget. Okay, Epicurus. So in ancient philosophy, there's the Stoics on one side who are basically like, don't let anything bother you. Don't be bothered by stuff. Just ignore it all and be unattached. Something like that. Okay, and then there's the other guys, the Epicureans. And I like the Epicureans. They're like, eat, drink, and be merry, do fun stuff, make your life count, get some excitement in your day. I like these people, all right? Here's what Epicurus, the father of Epicurean philosophy, this is what he says. Do not spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. That's gluttony. Don't spoil what you have by desiring what you have not. Remember that what you now have was once among the things you only hoped for. Or as my son Harrison said one day, he said, a healthy man wants many things. A dying man wants only one thing. And see, once we get healthy and we have all of our basic needs taken care of, then we start saying, well, what else would I like? And you know what we use to get those things is justification. We say, after all, I've worked really hard. I've worked really hard. I deserve this. Or, it's on sale right now. If you buy one, you get another one for half off. It only makes sense. I mean, it's Memorial Day weekend. It's on sale. You realize that Memorial Day weekend sale turns into, the sales never stop. And if I'm going to get one and the other one's half price, I might as well go ahead and get two and then I'll have four. I've got a red one, and I got a blue one, and I got a brown one, and I got the green one. I don't have the black one. See, this is what gluttony is. It's that feeling like I'm missing one of these things. You guys that are collectors, you know that bug. You know what happens. And it can be small things, like I've got an uncle who collects political buttons. Yikes. I got an uncle that collects political buttons. And then, you might have an uncle that collects cars. And if you've got more money, you can have better collections and bigger stuff and more things. And then one day what happens? You look at all this and you're like, how did I get all these things? I don't even like them. I don't even care about this anymore. And the whole collection gets sold off or given away because you're about to start a brand new collection. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? I might be the only one that's like this. Because I'm going to collect comic books. Oh, that'll be cool. It's a good investment. It's not an investment. I just like getting stuff. I like doing things. And it's interesting. And then the comic books, and then I don't really care about those anymore. Records, albums, classics. And then it's about albums, and then it's about stamps, and then it's about guitars, and then it just never ends. Lord, help us. Help us, God. And our whole society is wired to perpetuate this and look at us as consumers who always need more. And you're like, God, could you fill me with some living water, because this water just keeps making me thirsty. Let's look at a couple Bible verses. It's not good if I preach and don't put any Bible verses up. Luke chapter 12, verse 15. Then he said to them, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Listen to what he says. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. But see, gluttony says you need one more thing to be happy. You just need one more thing. And once you get it, you'll be happy. And you will be. But the problem is gluttony just always has another carrot out in front of you. Because as soon as you get that thing, you're happy for a while, but then, this would be better with jet skis. And I got the blue one and the brown one and the yellow one and the black one, but I don't have the orange one. And I just need that one, and then I have it, and then I'll be happy. But then what happens? Another thing takes its place. And you justify it because you've worked hard, you've earned it, it's on sale. But Jesus says life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. You remember the rich fool? He's like, wow, I've had a great year. And he fills his barn up with all kinds of resources and stuff and things, and he's acquired. And he says, you know what? Soul, you can take it easy. You've now reached the prime of your life. You can be a gentleman. You don't have to be a working man anymore. In fact, I'm going to tear this barn down and build bigger barns and fill them with more stuff. And what did the voice from heaven say? You fool! For tonight, your very soul will be taken from you. And he didn't prepare his eternity. He was so focused on his present and what he was acquiring that he never really spent any time thinking about the long term, his eternal home. Jesus says, look, guys, there's a lot of great stuff, but stuff, what does he say? Moths and rust destroy, and thieves break in and steal. Store up for yourselves treasures where moth and rust does not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. So enjoy this life, but don't get all of your focus on this life. Keep your focus, keep your gaze a little higher and look to eternity, and recognize that we're basically just kids in a doctor's waiting room playing with the toys before we meet the physician. Don't get too attached to the waiting room, and don't get too attached to the toys and the magazines and the fish tank and all the stuff that's here for your entertainment in this life, because ultimately the door's going to open, the angel's going to step in and say, the physician will see you now. All your problems will be cured. All your problems will be a memory. Remember why you're here. You're not here just for this life. You're here for the next, to be prepared for the next, and to prepare others for the next. For real life. So when Jesus visits this earth, he's like, whoa, don't make it all about the stuff. You got to get your eyes above that and look to something eternal. You have an empty, eternal hole that lives inside you, and only an eternal being can fill that. And you keep trying to fill it up with sports. You try to fill it up with food. You try to fill it up with drink. You try to fill it up with song. You try to fill it up with friends. And all those things can be meaningful in your life, but you're not giving to any of them. You're taking all of these things thinking that will fill you. And it won't. Do you remember that song from Miley Cyrus? We can't stop and we won't stop. Why? Gluttony. That's the problem. Hungry people will eat whatever is in front of them. You might imagine today if you were to drive home and you were to see somebody digging through a dumpster and eating the food in the dumpster. Now, there's a part of you that would look at that and think, oh, that's horrible. I can't even imagine. That's disgusting. Why would anybody eat out of a dumpster? But realize, people that do that, that isn't what they would want to do. They're there because they don't have any options. They have limited options. There's no other food available. And guys, if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves eating out of the dumpsters of this world. And I can't blame you for this because you're hungry. But that's the whole point is, guys, there is a bread that God has in heaven for us. There is a bread that he has given to us. His body is broken bread for us. He feeds us, and he cares for us, and he fills us. And when you're full, why are you still eating out of dumpsters? We should go to the dumpsters and tell people, look, there's a table set before you. I at one time was a beggar, but I have found bread to eat. Let me take you with me. And somebody said sharing the gospel is just one beggar telling another beggar where they can find bread. And so it's easy to disdain people when they're destroying their lives and think, oh, that's terrible. Why would they ever get involved in that? Why would they ever do that? They're ruining their life. Why? Look, hungry people will eat whatever is in front of them. So what do we got to do? We got to get the gospel in front of them. And we got to help them to see that if you don't drink the living water, you're going to come back every day for water that can never quench your thirst. Paul says in Titus chapter 2, look what he says. The grace of God has appeared that offers salvation to all people. It teaches us to say no. Being a Christian is a lot about saying yes. Yes, Lord. Yes, I'm hearing, I'm listening. Oh, let me read your scriptures. Yes, I need to love my neighbor. Yes, I need to worship God. Yes, I need to give and serve. But Christian life is also about saying no. And there may be some things in life you need to say no to. It's hard to say no. I'm going to Chick-fil-A and I'm getting my fries and a mint. It's hard to say no. Everything within you is like, we should do this. We should get this. We should spend our money on this. This would be more fun. This would be more exciting. It's hard to restrain yourself sometime when you're very hungry and want something in life. But Paul says it teaches us to say no to ungodliness, no to worldly passions, and to live a self-controlled, upright, and godly life in this present age. There's the challenge for gluttons. Is don't deny your hunger, but allow your hunger to drive you to where the true fulfillment is, to the cross. Say, God, let me hunger for you more than I hunger for the things of this world. And sometimes it may just be saying no to yourself, just like, I don't need that. The thought came in my mind, and I feel like I should go after it, but, I really don't need. Being rich is not about what you have, it's about what you lack. And why are you so empty? Why do you still lack so much? That lack will drive us sometimes into our own prisons made by our own devices. Okay, I got a couple more verses and I'm done. Luke chapter 12. He said to them, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist of an abundance of possessions. And then in Titus 2, he says, the grace of God has appeared, offering salvation to all people, and it teaches us to say no to ungodliness and worldly passions. And I already read that. What am I doing? I'm reading the same thing over and over again. Well, maybe God wants me to read it more than once. We'll blame it on the Lord. Dick Van Dyke one time said, the key to life is just being a happy person, and happiness will bring you success. And that pursuit of happiness can sometimes make us miserable. Sometimes in my life, and maybe yours, you could say it like this. Your desire to be happy is causing a lot of suffering. The dad who abandons his family to go live it up in Las Vegas, or the mom who abandons her kids and spends all of her time at the mall with friends, living the exquisite lifestyle. Your pursuit of happiness can lead you into great misery, cause great suffering for you and suffering for the people around you. You can leave behind you a trail of broken hearts and broken promises. So Lord, we pray that you would fill us today. Not take our hunger away from us, but make us hungry for you. Help us to hunger for your will, to seek first your kingdom and your righteousness. Fill us today fill in the emptiness and the void that's in our lives. Help us to find our fullness in you. God, help us with this quest for happiness, instead to have an eternal joy. Help us to have gratitude for all that you've given us. Instead of looking at what we're lacking, help us to see all the blessings. The health, the families, the house, the job. Help us to see the blessings and to just be grateful for a minute. We're like kids that open all the presents on Christmas and then look to mom and dad. Is there more? Is there more? Is there more? What about that other thing I wanted? You know, there's a hunger that lives within us that'll never be satisfied in this life. Because we're created for the Garden of Eden. We're created for heaven. One day we will rest from this gluttony. We will be at the Lord's table. And we'll be surrounded by His people and in His presence. And all of our needs will be met. But until that day, we will struggle in this life. And one of the ways we'll struggle is this perpetual sense that something is missing. Let us grieve that loss together. Say, Lord, I know that I was created for more than this life, and nothing in this life can truly satisfy or fulfill me. There'll always be more stuff. But God, help me to get my eyes off of what I lack and my eyes on what I have. Help me to hunger for you more than I hunger for the things of this world. Help me to say no when everything within me wants to say yes. Help me to say no to all of the things in this world that would pull me away from you and drag me away from you. Fill your people today with joy. Some of us need more faith today. You're facing challenges and struggles, and it's easy to get overwhelmed, and you wonder if God's going to be there. You need faith to fight the fears. Some of you need grace to forgive the pain that's been caused in your life. I get it. But, you know, God's people should be marked by a certain kind of joy that says, yes, the cancer's still here, but I have joy. Yes, the bills are still on the table, but I have joy. Yes, the conflicts are still going on around me and in my life, but I still have joy. A joy that no one can take from us. A peace that's beyond understanding and a joy that surpasses all knowledge. That is found in something eternal. It won't be found in the things of this life. It's found in you build your house on a rock. So let us be filled with His joy today. Filled with grateful hearts. Share that joy like light in the world around us, so that people will say, whatever that guy's drinking, I want that. If you're ready today to commit your life to Christ, we want to talk with you and pray with you. If you're ready to be baptized into Christ, you can text the word decision to us. If you don't get our text once a week, make sure you text that number and let us know so that you can stay in touch with what's going on. But if you want to text the word decision to us, or you want to stop at the prayer table, or you want to meet with me down front here after the service is over, we want one beggar showing another beggar where to get bread. Let's stand together. Let's sing.